large cabinet just crashing to the ground here. We're safe. We're on the other side of the fence, just outside of arm's length of all this scene. But I'm going to describe a bit of a difficult moment a moment ago when the firefighters were trying to climb down from the top. They said that they have verbal contact with Garfield, and every time they got close to him, they could hear him cry out in a bit of pain because their body weight and the weight of the debris was starting to crush his chest a bit. Now, they still think he's okay. We don't know his condition, but they are in communication with him. So that's why they're trying to move all this weight off, because the more weight they can lift from the pile, they hope that alleviates his condition. They hope that eases their path to find him, and that's what this is all about. You know, we hope that in the next few moments here, you know, we can't guess, but we hope that sometime soon Garfield is able to escape this pile of rubble that was once his home. And that's what they're working toward, these 2-3 waves of firefighters. In fact, we can see now, if you want to look over this way, Andy, there's a ladder starting to move this way, and there are some chainsaws and heavy machinery working in. Perhaps they're trying to get a bird's eye view down or maybe lift some things out. But we're just watching this scene unfold with the rest of you at home. Kelly, if you're seeing things you'd like clarification on or anything that you'd like from us, perhaps they're even trying to bring some water into the mix, I'm not sure. But it looks like they're trying to now get above the scene and see if they can pull some of this weight that's right now on top of Garfield, pull it off of him and out of their way.
And Mark, you know, Garfield, he was doing what Scott, you know, always tells people to do, that when there is a warning, go into an area, a safe place. So when he was in the basement, he was in the safe place.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that you point that out, because imagine if he were anywhere else. I mean, he seems to be in a structure that is actually holding up pretty good, if I can say so. The rest of the structures around the perimeter of the house, that's the classic lesson, why you stay away from these outer walls. All of that collapsing in. He would have been under that part of the home. Yes, this is a hard extraction effort. This is a difficult job these firefighters have in front of them. But as best we know, some of that structure, some of the central walls of the home, from what we can hear these firefighters tell us, it sounds like those are the things that are right now giving him a little bit of breathing room as they try to pull off this recovery effort here. And look, I'll tell you, his sister was telling some friends a moment ago, she had just left this house to go down the street to another one of her relatives' homes, and that's when she heard the notice. She took shelter there. Then she heard that Garfield's house had collapsed, so she raced back here. That's when we met her outside the scene here. Of course, she was frantic at first. She was delighted to know there was hope. She was glad to see these firefighters come to the rescue here. But it's been a wave of emotions for her and for the other family members as they've been gathering around, and some of their neighbors have been offering to help. For now, they've done most of the help they can, just the amateur volunteers who've been showing up with work gloves and 5-gallon buckets, offering to help in any way they can. For now, the firefighters have said, leave it to us, we'll take it from here. I don't know if you can hear that chopper, but just above us is an emergency management helicopter that's been scanning this area, and perhaps they're just on standby to help airlift anyone if they need to, or they're giving some reports back to city officials who are at SLMPD right now surveying the damage. Perhaps they're just giving a bit of an overview from the eye in the sky. Andy, I don't know if you can see that. Couldn't quite get it. But again, you see here perhaps, what, 5-6 firefighters on top. There are 1 or 2 who have tried to make their way down into the center crevice of the home here. We'll give you a look at that helicopter as it flies by, and we can hear the sirens, that ambulances and police cars.
Good evening, folks. Thanks so much for joining us here for Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm your host, Vanessa Rufus. We'll be together for the next 2 hours. We have a very busy evening for you. We're following some severe weather impacts in the Midwest, and we also just got a pretty big update on the escaped inmates in New Orleans. And so we want to start off with this tornado coverage that we're seeing in St. Louis, because the imagery that we're seeing is absolutely stunning. Our affiliate out there is in continuous coverage at this very moment, looking at all of the damage, as we are seeing at least 2 confirmed tornado touchdowns in the St. Louis region. Lots of damage, and we're even seeing attempts to rescue a man who was trapped inside a house. So with that, we want to turn our attention to KDSK in St. Louis. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Hey, Kelly, we've been driving around North St. Louis for hours now. We drove up on this really horrible scene here. Look at all these trees down here. I mean, this entire park is just covered with trees that have been snapped in half, all due to that big storm that blew through here just after 2:30 this afternoon. Again, this is the official O'Fallon Park Recreational Complex. It's located off West Florissant and Pope in North St. Louis. Look at this big tree just uprooted. And that's the scene out here, tree after tree after tree just on the ground. In the far back there too, to the left there, Jimmy, you can see that light pole, that light post that's on the parking lot there. Again, just a lot of trees. This is a popular park for lots of folks here in North St. Louis. Wendell McIntyre, you are the security guy here at the YMCA. You were driving here at the height of that storm. How scary was all that?
Listen, just the sound was enough to make you stop and take cover. You know, but you couldn't see nothing. It was all white. You had debris flying both ways. Matter of fact, the wind was going that way. Then a few seconds later, it started coming back the other way.
You told me your car was shaking?
Man, my car felt like it was getting ready to turn over.
Mm-hmm. And behind you is the YMCA. We can see there's damage to the roof. Tell me about it. How bad is it?
Well, now maintenance is here now. You know, they're going up on top to look at the damage. But inside, it was very minimum. No,
there were people inside.
It was about 15 to 20 people, plus the management.
All of whom took cover?
Yes, they had to immediately take cover. They took cover, and then at the same time, everybody got out safe.
What do you think about all this damage? Look at this park.
Oh, man, it didn't look like it looked yesterday, you know, and there's a friend of mine right there. You know, he's going to be responsible for all of this right here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're seeing countless trees just on the ground.
Oh man, it was a lot. You know, I don't want to call it a tornado, but I don't know the difference. You know, from the way it sounded, the way my car was moving. You see all these trees down, the building is damaged. You know, and like I say, they're evaluating things right now. I don't know if there are any broken windows or anything like that.
But the good thing is that everybody was okay.
Yeah, we cleared everybody out, made sure everybody was okay. You know, we had parents out here because the school bus brings the kids here to drop them off. But it couldn't do that. Yeah. So the parents still came here, and they was parked out here waiting to receive their kids.
Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts on all of this. And again, obviously the YMCA is now closed for the night. The wind is blowing through right now. We're going to continue to drive around this North City area and see what else we're seeing all affected by this storm. Kelly, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Robert. This is what we have been seeing all throughout the city in the Central West End, Clayton, power outages. We're having gas leaks, and then we are having a man who is trapped in his own home in North St. Louis. Mark Maxwell has been giving us updates to this situation. Basically, we are all on the edge of our seats wanting to know how he is doing, Mark.
Yeah, Kelly, we're still not sure of his actual condition. We do know that he's in verbal contact with these firefighters and emergency responders and has been throughout. In fact, the firefighters are taking verbal cues from him as they start to move things from one part of the building. He'll say, that's putting pressure on my body, and I'll move out of the way. We just heard some of the firefighters call for one of their bigger saws. They've been moving some of this brick by brick, board by board, door by door. This is dangerous work. We saw one firefighter a moment ago while you were talking to Robert on the edge of this, what used to be this home, take a bit of a tumble. This is, as you can imagine, it's not exactly stable footing. So these firefighters are trying to make their way up there, and I believe after trying to burrow through and tunnel through the basement to reach him, they've now completely changed their strategy. There's a ladder above in case they can use that as some kind of leverage to help pull some of the weight off. And there are neighbors and family and volunteers gathering around the perimeter watching and praying, hoping that 45-year-old Garfield makes his way out. We know that he's been down there for what I believe is now approaching 2 hours. As soon as the severe weather knocked this house down on top of him, he was taking shelter inside the pantry of the kitchen. And we heard firefighters a moment ago say all the weight, everything is on top of him. That's why they've started to just try and just take that long, tedious job of pulling the weight off of him, hoping they can eventually get through and get to him safely. That's been the biggest concern. Every time they move some of this debris, they run the risk of other debris falling in, and that could create a very dangerous or complicated scenario. I'm going to step out of the way here and see what exactly we're working with at this point. But you can hear those other sirens perhaps in the background. What you're seeing now is the second, even third wave of firefighters. There's been a number of different crews coming through here offering support and relief to the folks who are doing some of the early digging and the early work to remove a lot of this debris. But this is really just manual labor. If you watch this, it's like the worst demolition scene you've ever seen. You can see one firefighter at the top trying to hold up that beam to keep it from falling on his colleagues while they pull other stuff out. You've seen them toss entire filing cabinets or mattresses or big pieces of furniture down to the side of the wall to they're down into this house. And look, this could take, if this was just a regular construction scene, even with big heavy equipment, if you were being, if you weren't being careful with a person trapped underneath, it would still take you a long time. And they're trying to go through painstaking care to make sure that they don't make any of this worse. So that's what's taking this so long. But again, all indications so far have been that Garfield is talking to them, and I'm sure if they are able to pull him out, Kelly, that they're going to want to get him some help and some medical attention just to check on him. He's been in a pretty dangerous situation here for the last 2 hours or so. But again, we're trying to bring you updates. We know, if you were watching earlier, that there was a house just down the street where the upper bedroom collapsed in, almost hit a man. He had just thought to put a hard hat on. He feels that and his positioning inside the home was the thing that helped his narrow survival there. His cousin, who was in the basement, also survived. A lot of close calls and a lot of disaster and damage in North City right now. So we're going to keep watching and hoping that things turn out for the better here. You can hear that saw in the background. They're trying to break through some of this debris and pull things out. A pretty narrow and difficult job ahead of us here in North City. But for now, I'll throw it back to you, Kelly.
And it just gives us a better appreciation for our first responders, firefighters. They attend to fires every day, but it's not every day that someone is trapped, and they have to kind of figure out what they need to do, while Garfield, the man who is trapped, is in a way kind of directing them on what to do.
Yeah, they're engineering their way out of a disaster, and this is physical labor. Some of these are young, big, strong men, and they're tired. They've been working and tugging and pulling at brick and wood for a long time. A couple of them have come off saying they could use some water. In fact, I see that looks like there's been some water brought to some of these folks here on the end. And now we're seeing, we're not going to show any of this, I believe. We do have a stretcher being brought over here. That could be a good sign. Perhaps they're being to have the extraction, the removal here. There's a new crew coming. If they do pull him out, of course, we're not going to show anything that would be inappropriate or insensitive here, but we just want to prepare you in the newsroom and the viewers at home for what we might see in the moments ahead. We don't know. We just see that there is an effort to pull this. I'm listening to some of the chatter here between the firefighters. They're not quite ready, but they are pulling some of this debris out, and they're bringing a stretcher over nearby. So, and now it looks like one of the firefighters is calling to see if that stretcher is ready. So Kelly, you guys and the producers there can give us some feedback. I'll try to give you the best feedback I can on what we're seeing here, but it looks like they might be nearing an attempt, the first attempt to extract him. We can't see up above. They do have a ladder that's stretched out over above the house here, what used to be this house. There are no firefighters on that ladder, but they have a stretcher here along the side, And after 4 or 5 unsuccessful attempts
Yeah, I would
to
think,
burrow
Mark,
and tunnel their way through under.
I don't
Go
know if
ahead.
you can hear me. I was just saying, due to the sensitive nature, and we know that he is, he's been able to communicate with them, but we also want to be sensitive to Garfield, his family, and it seems like they could possibly be, getting a little closer to bringing him out, but we also want to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, a lot of people, we're seeing folks on social media, we're seeing people in the neighborhood come up for this guy. People are offering prayers, best wishes, and anything they can do to help. We've seen that volunteer effort. We've seen some police officers and firefighters coming in this team effort, and really just the community in North City coming to try and help this guy. So it's been, in some ways, while tragic, also inspiring to see all the effort, all the different people that it takes to look out for their neighbor, and that's part of what we're witnessing here.
Yeah.
But again, it does look like they're trying to prepare and make a second exit path. We thought perhaps they were going to try to do that for minutes to an hour ago, but I still hear some sawing with a big electric saw, so they're still trying to clear some of the path there, Kelly.
Yeah, the amount of first responders has definitely grown, and they are kind of MacGyvering their way and trying to get him out. Mark, we're going to check in with you as soon as we need to, okay? But
All right, sounds
first,
good.
we want to look at some video that Adam Briggs sent us from downtown St. Louis. It shows a fast-moving storm and some interesting clouds. So, Scott, what would you make of those clouds?
Well, I mean, you can see it looks like there might be some rotation in there and kind of like some kind of funnel, but that's way out ahead of it versus, back in the storm itself. So I don't know that, and I don't have a full vantage point, so it's kind of hard to say. But that could, sometimes you get these spinning, the tornadoes, and we'll make an assumption that this was a tornado, maybe a combination of tornado and straight line wind damage, or mostly tornado damage in St. Louis. And by the way, I was just looking up, 2013, we had an EF0 in city limits. The Good Friday tornado scooted by far north St. Louis in the city. And in 2010, we had an EF1, but we haven't had, since 1959, I think was the last really big tornado that actually came into the city. Now, I'm not saying this was a big tornado. We know there's been a lot of damage with this storm. The National Weather Service will send out crews tomorrow, and they will assess that damage and determine whether this was, first of all, a tornado to begin with, and then assess what kind of wind speeds we had to get the damage that we see. All right. At this moment, here's the good news we have for you. You're looking at the radar, and all of our area now is warning free. Now, there are some tornadic, potentially thunderstorms over here, parts of central Illinois, down in southern portions of Illinois, but our viewing area, we are seeing those storms press away. We still have Clay County, Jefferson County, and Perry County off to the east and south, as well as Madison, Iron, and Reynolds in the tornado watch. I really think your severe weather threat is over in those areas as well. They're just waiting for the last of the storms to clear those counties now. So this is that line that we dealt with this afternoon, rolling in and across the region. Line of intense thunderstorms, tremendous amount of hail. The reports of golf ball to egg size hail and larger. Out at the Weather Service office, it looked like about 2, maybe 2.5 inch hail there. This is the spinning cloud. There is rotation within this cloud. Now, I can't tell exactly how fast it's going, but we do know that there is a wall of water there and wind right at the leading edge. So it could be that's part of the tornado, and the tornado maybe is just behind that. Watch your flash there that's coming in just a second. You'll see a power flash as we have that wind and that heavy rain, there it goes, right over some power lines. Of course, this is into Forest Park. You're going into the central west end. And after this, when that wall of water moved over our camera up on top of 100 above the park, you could see the debris, leaves and such flying through. This is kind of your radar repeat here of this storm as it developed and rolled into St. Louis County. Before it started to try to create a tornado, it was creating some huge hail out at the National Weather Service office in Weldon Spring. As it started to move in here, as you're looking at it coming in, and we're taking you back, this is the Doppler radar replay, 229. You can see, you're starting to see more of some rotation here as it gets east of the radar site. And then once we get inside.
Folks, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We've been watching this continuous coverage from our affiliate out in St. Louis, which is an area we're seeing very hard hit tonight by severe weather. At least 2 confirmed tornadoes. You saw just a few moments ago an extraction of a man underway as this man is trapped inside a home following some of these weather impacts. And as you are hearing as well from their meteorology team, this is a situation where, while a lot of the warnings seem to have expired for the St. Louis area, it looks like they're still under a watch itself for probably another 45 minutes or so. And most of their eastern and southern counties in their viewing area are still kind of not in the clear quite yet. So we're going to continue to stick with this coverage out of St. Louis. We'll remind you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we are taking these feeds as they come into us as this news breaks. So we'll hang here. We'll let you know we are monitoring some brand new developments in the search for the escaped inmates from New Orleans. And so that's another big topic that we plan to get to tonight. But first and foremost, making sure that folks are aware of the weather impacts out in the Midwest. So we'll send you now back to the coverage in full from KDSK.
Really, the other 2 counties that have had significant power outages. But St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis hard hit by this storm. Now, the good news is not only are we done with the threat of severe weather for St. Louis, but now we have a pretty clear sky. Those are the storms that are still farther to the south of town this evening, the ones that are moving out. As we look west out Highway 70, your sky is mostly clear. The weekend is looking good. Jim Castillo's been here. He may fine-tune this forecast a little more, but we're talking temperatures 75 to 80 for Saturday, 75 to 80 for Sunday. Sunday, we probably have a little more cloud cover. The May Day parade is on Sunday for Annie Malone. It's a big deal, and we're going to have some pleasant conditions. We don't think it's going to rain for us as we go into Sunday. Now, we may have another weather impact alert day coming for Tuesday. I don't know yet. To be honest with you, our focus has been on today. So we'll keep you updated on that. And Jimmy will see you later on tonight with an update at 10 on the latest on the 7-day forecast. But it should be quiet for the next couple of days.
That is good news. Well, Clayton, the city of Clayton has set out an update on the storm. There are no confirmed reports of any injuries. A lot of damage that we have seen from Holden Karicki's live shots to property. Clayton is coordinating emergency response efforts to help neighbors impacted by the storm. And the city is also asking for people to avoid the areas near South Brentwood Boulevard, Skinker Road, Forsyth, and Clayton Road. We should also mention the St. Louis Zoo had damage, storm damage, down trees. All of the animals are fine. All of the employees are fine, but they are going to be closed tomorrow so they can assess all of the damage. We want to head back to North City where Annie Crawl is live on Lee Avenue. What do you have, Annie?
Kelly, I'm not far from Athlone Avenue, and the word I keep hearing over and over again from neighbors is devastation, but also grateful. Grateful because this is one of the Metro buses that got picked up with the high winds. It was picked up from the back. Now, we spoke with a woman, Lakeisha Robinson, who tells us this bus saved her life. She was on it along with 7 other people, a Metro spokesperson told us, because if it wasn't for this bus, well, she's worried she might have lost her life today. It was picked up. We also have some smashed windows on the other side because of it. But look here, we're at this Lee Avenue, Athlone Avenue intersection, the downed power lines. That's what's so scary for some people driving underneath. Thankfully, the police have started to tape off some of the roads, but unfortunately, people are still driving around trying to get to family members. I spoke with a man who's trying to get to his 1-year-old nephew with a broom trying to clear up the road, but you see here, it's a downed power line. It's roofs blocking roads. There's too many bricks to even start to count count, and the light posts that have been picked up. It's a miracle there hasn't been an accident at this intersection just because of how chaotic it is and how much destruction there's been. Now, I also spoke with a man who has lived on Penrose right behind me for more than 50 years. Cedric tells me he's never seen anything like this. Now, the next couple days for Cedric and, of course, the other people in North City is just trying to clean up and try and understand what comes next. People are staying in hotels. People are going to try and clean up. We saw a car that was damaged. It had its window blown out after the storm coverage, but the trees that have been snapped, the roofs that have been shot down because of all of this is pretty extensive. There's very few buildings that haven't been hit in some way, shape, or form. So driving around here, thankfully, we have St. Louis police blocking off some of the roads, but for some people, they're getting off of work. It's the first time they've seen any of this damage. It's the first time they're trying to get to any of their family members. So the next couple of hours, and especially the next couple of days, are going to be pretty darn difficult. But for now, though, reporting live in North City, Annie Krall, 5 on your side.
All right, thank you, Annie. We'll check in with you a little later. You know, we have crews all over the area, and we want to show you video from some of the storm damage. This is the scene from Academy and Cates near Del Mar. Down power lines, trees are down in front of homes. And then here's some video from Barnes Jewish Hospital. This is from Sidney Cruz. Huge storm clouds kind of lurking over the city, looking quite ominous. And you can, if you look very closely, you can see the lightning in the background. I'm going to head back out to Clayton, where Holden Kerwicki has been. There have been gas leaks. People have been evacuated. What's the latest there, Holden?
Well, Kelly, we've been wandering around this neighborhood here along Polo Drive. This is just off South Hanley. And actually, we got to a part where we couldn't go any farther because Spire had the road blocked off. They were actually trying to set up some barricades. And now, the one thing I did notice, they had shut off the gas in that area as they worked on one break. But then as we headed back this way, more Spire trucks were coming in because there are multiple breaks in this neighborhood. I want to show you really one of the first things that we saw when we pulled in here. This car was actually driving down Hanley when a tree snapped off in the middle of the storm, and you can see it just laid right across the hood and on the windshield of this Kia. It actually busted out the sunroof. I spoke with the driver who remained on scene, speaking with first responders, and he was all right, but very obviously shaken up. Now, as we've walked through this neighborhood here, you see a lot of trees down. This is a smaller tree, but one of the things that I kind of found interesting, the nearest home is maybe a good 100 yards away, but here we have just a piece of a downspout off somebody's gutters. I couldn't tell you which house this actually came off of looking around. Now, the one thing I have found very inspiring, as we've kind of walked around, is that the people in this neighborhood really are checking on each other. I just spoke with one man, said he was playing golf actually over at Forest Park when the storm rolled through. His house was okay. He was okay, even though he was out on the golf course, but his friends here, as you can see, suffering from a lot of damage. Now, the good news is South Hanley Road, which was closed down for a portion of time, is actually back open. But again, there's just so many trees down in this neighborhood. This looks like a bush. It's not. It's actually the top of a willow tree. We actually found people sitting on the other side of it earlier. And this gentleman up here, we were just speaking with him. He lives in a nearby subdivision. Heard about the damage. He actually came over here to a friend's house. They're without power. Looking at the Ameren outage map, there are about 300 people in this neighborhood alone without power. He just brought over a couple of generators. He's been going door to door trying to, just help people, just try and do a little cleanup. And the prevailing theme here, even though the damage as we look around is bad in this neighborhood, everybody's just happy that in this neighborhood at least, and I heard you say it earlier too, Kelly, that in Clayton no one was injured. So that's a very good thing. Everybody's saying, they all have insurance. Everything out here can be replaced. It's just going to take, as Mark put it earlier, a little manpower, a little elbow grease to just try and get all of this cleaned up. So for now, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio. Reporting live in Clayton, Holden Kerwicki, 5 on your side.
Okay, Holden, thanks so much. Now we want to head to Brent Solomon. Brent, where are you?
Where are you?
Hey guys, we are in St. Louis right now. An update from the spokesperson of the police department where we're learning information regarding injuries and possibly even those fatalities. Let's go to Mitch McCoy right now with St. Louis Metropolitan Police. What can you let people know right now?
Yeah, Brent, thanks for coming here and thanks for helping get the message out. What I can tell you is there is active search and rescue operations being conducted by the St. Louis Fire Department. We do know that there is significant damage in the North City community. We know as of right now that there are at least 4 people that have tragically lost their life in these storms. We are doing everything we can right now to search all of the homes that have damage and then get anyone who is trapped out. Police officers right now are helping the St. Louis Fire Department. You can see here, this is a coordinated response. We have Highway Patrol, we have County Police. It's all hands on deck to rescue as many people as we can and save lives.
We thank you for the work you're doing. Are you learning anything in terms of ages of those victims? Do we know if they're children, adults?
I don't have any information about that. I know that that firefighters and police officers are doing everything they can as those 911 calls come in to get to places as quickly as possible. What I can tell you is, and we need your help as much as possible along with Channel 5, let everyone know, please stay off the roads. It is dangerous out here. There's still live wires, there's trees down, there is damage across North City and in this community. We need people to stay off the roads. Here's another plea. We need people to stay off their phones. Check on your loved ones and then get off the phone. It is very difficult right now to make phone calls and to access communications. So if people can stay off the phones as much as possible, please do that.
Anything else we should share with the public? I mean, they're learning of this as we speak.
I mean, I think right now what you can tell your viewers and make sure they know, you just heard the sirens, another St. Louis Metro police officer going out, responding to another emergency call. Please stay off the roads, call 911 if you need us, but in the meantime, we need St. Louisans to come together and we need St. Louisans to help out fellow St. Louisans. That's going to be staying off the roads, don't go out if you don't have to, and ultimately stay off the phone once you check in on your loved ones.
Mitch, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
And so you just heard the spokesperson confirming those 4 fatalities from today's storms. And very quickly, if I can, photojournalist Maddie is working with me. I just want you to see that active presence of first responders who are coming together, uniting and coordinating their efforts, because as you can imagine, there are lots of families out there right now in need of help. What would have taken a 10-minute ride to get to this very scene so you could hear that update took us nearly an hour. That's because roads are closed right now. That's because electric lines are down right now. That's because trees are covering roadways right now. And you heard Mitch say, if you don't have to be outside, don't. If you don't have to drive somewhere right now, don't, because you will likely encounter some of those same hazards on the roadways at this hour. That is the very latest from Richmond, or from St. Louis, I'm so sorry. But stay with 5 on your side, because we're going to hit the ground right now and find out what other information we can gather as more and more communities here are dealing with damage at this hour. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Brent. I'm going to do my best to give you an overview because there is so much information that we're taking in. But storms blew through St. Louis a few hours ago. This is something that is rare in St. Louis to have, not confirmed, but a possible tornado or tornadoes. Unfortunately, the storm has claimed 4 lives. 10 children are at St. Louis Children's Hospital, 1 in critical condition. Others will be released later today, and they will be reunited with their families. We have 1 man in North St. Louis who is trapped in his home, and first responders have been working for the past 2 hours to get him from his home. He has been able to communicate with those first responders, but the weight of the home is on him. We have crews all around the area working to cover everything as much as we can. And one of the areas that has been hardest hit has been the Central West End, a very popular neighborhood in St. Louis, a very walkable neighborhood with a lot of shops and restaurants and a lot of older trees. And that's where we find Justina Coronel, who has been giving us wall-to-wall coverage as she's been walking around the neighborhood. What can you tell us now?
Absolutely. So just one real quick update. They're actually boarding up right now, Kingside Diner. But as we were out here, photographer Jimmy Hummel had seen this woman, Isabel, walking around with her bags, and instantly we were curious what was going on. Now her roof has collapsed in her apartment, which is about 5 minutes away. So she's been walking around so she could get service on her phone just to get in contact with her family. So Isabel, can you tell us about what you saw when you left work and then got home?
Yeah, so whenever I left work, I tried getting to my apartment. All the trees were down around the area, so I tried getting as close as I could. I probably parked at an apartment building about 4 blocks away. I left a note on my car with my phone number and just left a little note that said I was going to go check my apartment. As I tried making my way to my apartment, obviously it was a hard journey, but as I got to my apartment, my neighbors were there. They live on the 4th floor as well. They told me that the roof had collapsed and to brace myself and asked me if they could come in with me. So they walked in with me and my hands are shaking. I walked in and my roof was gone, essentially.
You grabbed your items, so tell us about what you grabbed.
So I went ahead and just started grabbing items. I didn't know what to grab. I grabbed my daughter's first outfit from the hospital, her little birthday dress, like a future outfit I planned, a baby outfit that I had, just her favorite dragon, and then my work bag. And our social security cards. That's the first thing I could think of. I was too scared to go to the basement because the pipelines and everything, so I didn't grab any documents there. As I was grabbing things, the roof started trickling down on me, so I got scared and I got out immediately and called my family. I did try going to a family member's house. His place is destroyed, so I just started making my way down here, trying to find service and just a place to rest until my family can get me.
Really, overall, I know your uncle also had called you saying that the windows were being blown out, and you said the postman, he was not doing okay either before we wrap up.
On the streets, people are not doing okay right now. There is no cell service. The mailman, he got hit by a branch and hit his back really bad. He has no cell service. He only has the little UPS phone. No one's answering him. People are stranded. They have their kids with just like little food bags. Yeah, overall, it is not looking good right now. And yeah, overall, the community needs help. And a lot of the community was helping, which is very nice to see.
Well, I'm so sorry this happened. I hope you can find some service. And again, of course, we're advising people to get off the phone so people like Isabel can call her family to say, hey, I'm okay. I need a place to stay. So Isabel, her family lives in the Hills, so she will be there tonight with them. We're going to send it back to y'all as we help Isabel as she kind of continues to find a place to find self-service.
Yeah, and Justina, you can kind of touch upon that. You know, when these storms come through, and she says all she has, you know, are the things in her bags, and you don't know how you will react, you know, when you have these fast-moving storms coming through, and really feel for her.
Absolutely. I mean, when you said you just grabbed everything you saw in sight, and so anything that you were like, I need to grab because I don't know what I can get back, or kind of where was your mind at?
My neighbors told me to. They were like, grab what? I literally blinked. In a case of emergency, I didn't know what to grab right away. So my first thought of mine was what is most important to me. I thought of my baby girl first, what I thought was valuable to her. And then, other than that, my mind went blank. In a state of emergency, I just grabbed what I thought was most important. I guess these were the items. Overall, my clothes, everything else is materialistic. I'm just happy that I was at work, my daughter was at home with my mom, and we're overall safe.
Well, I really appreciate it. Get home, get to your family's house safe right now. See, we're getting emergency crews. Again, a lot of activity out here, a lot of cars coming through. Kings Highway, we're being told, is shut down so people can get to BJC. So a lot of traffic. Again, if you can stay home, please do. We try to go move to even Forest Park. It took us about 15 minutes to even move an inch. So we pulled out over and we're like, let's go back to Kingside Diner. If you can, stay home. Kelly,
yes,
I'll send it back to you.
And we hope that people heed that advice. Every live shot that we are going to, we are hearing.
All right, folks, some very emotional coverage that we continue to listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. For folks who are just joining us, we've been watching continuous coverage from our sister station in St. Louis, KSDK, after they have been hit by, we're seeing at least 2 tornadoes today. Really extensive damage, widespread damage, and it's spanning different neighborhoods we're seeing. And the imagery is just horrendous. For example, we can see here buildings that are torn apart. There's a building that has collapsed on a gentleman who is actually still trapped in the building, is conscious and is able to speak with rescuers, but has been basically directing them as far as any sort of movements of debris and how that's impacting how that debris feels on top of his body. And it's just really heartbreaking to see some of these emotions from these folks who are possibly not expecting this, but nevertheless having to deal with the impacts and the fallout at this point. Power outages reported. Folks are being told to stay off the roadways and also stay off their cell phones because we're told there's been some damage to the infrastructure and people are having a hard time making cell phone calls. So let's listen in. It looks like we've got a live interview underway with someone who either witnessed. Oh, it sounds like, okay, this is the owner of this house right here.
Thank goodness, no.
Yeah. I mean, talk to me just about the damage that you guys have to work through. I know I see, you know, the roof, part of the roof is on some of your cars here.
Absolutely. The complete roof, the whole entire upstairs, you can just look up. So if it rains, it's just going to damage most of our property inside. All of our air conditioning units are in the front. And of course, you can see where the light post has damaged our vehicle. So it was a really bad tornado.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It must be so devastating for you all.
It really is. It really is.
How old is this home?
This is 115. We were just renovating it and look now. it's horrible. It's devastating. So I could imagine for those who were in anything, their whole home is gone. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, we're so sorry. Wishing the best for you guys. And, you know, what is the recovery cleanup process look like now?
Work. Yeah, lots of work. Lots of work, lots of friends and family.
Thank you, Pamela.
You're welcome so much, and thanks for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have been seeing homes like this all across this area. I know there was a city worker that was helping Pamela and her husband who was just coming and seeing and assessing the damage to see how many buildings have collapsed. She said there have been multiple on this area, and I want to also show you there's a bunch of traffic right now here on Page Boulevard. If you can see all the way down here, there is a huge, ginormous tree blocking the traffic. So people are, you know, both sides are just weaving in and out of here. But there, as we've seen, I mean, it took us to get here about an hour and a half and from downtown St. Louis. And so it's just the traffic, so many down power lines, so many down trees. And we will send it back to you in the studio. Live in North St. Louis, Megan Kernan, 5 on your side.
And for the past 3 hours, we have been reporting on a man named Garfield who has been trapped in his home. Emergency responders just minutes ago were able to find him, and that is where we find Mark Maxwell with the latest on this.
Sheila, we just heard family members erupt. They're elated in applause. They were cheering for firefighters like firefighter Pat, who's joining me now after a 3-hour plus difficult labor. That task there, I can't imagine what you were going through.
Yeah, it was tough. The biggest, was the manpower. We're spread thin throughout the city, so we had to wait for a few other companies. But we were here when we got here first, so we wanted to make sure we found his direct location, and then, of course, the best route to get to him. Once the manpower showed up, we just started digging at the best possible route. We had contact with him the whole time, and he was a trooper and did great, so we're thankful we were able to get him out.
We saw some medics who were standing by preparing to treat him, to check his conditions. I know you're not a medical doctor, so I won't ask you to give me a full analysis, but just your feel with your experience, what kind of shape is he in generally?
Considering the building collapsed on him, he's doing great.
That's glad to hear. How about your firefighters? We saw some pretty shaky scenarios there. They're dealing with broken glass, rusty nails. One took a bit of a spill. How are your guys doing?
Everybody on the scene did an excellent job, and no injuries from us. It's what we do, so I'm just glad we were able to get them out.
I told you we would keep this short, but I was going to say on behalf of so many of our viewers who've been following along on TV, they've been reaching out on social media, offering their thanks and gratitude for what you guys did, and that was pretty cool to watch, so thank you.
No problem. Glad we could help. It's what we're here for, but we got to go back in service and keep helping.
Yeah, a lot more work to do. Thank you, firefighter Pat, who just shared with us his first and friends are over overjoyed. And we can tell you that just before they put Garfield, the 45-year-old man who apologized for these alarms here, we're seeing them take him away in that ambulance right now. They're going to rush him to a hospital for some checkups and make sure he's okay. But I can tell you, yes, he's in rough shape. He was buried under his own home for 3 hours. And Andy, let's show them what's left of this house. Just seeing it here now. But this is the rubble, the remains. He was trapped under all of that weight. And when they pulled him out from the center, right on top, they lifted as much of the weight off of him as they could. They dug, pardon me, some of the debris here. It's a lot to breathe through, but they've been pulling him out of the center of the home, right out of the very top after trying to get down through the basement. And we saw him standing. We saw him walking just a little bit. He looked somewhat feeble, but he looked healthy. Here's a firefighter now bringing a crate of water bottles, a couple crates of water bottles. People in the community have been coming by to make sure they're hydrated and rested. We have firefighters from Belleville who came all the way across the river to help out, firefighters from local communities. So a team effort here. The family is making their way to the hospital to make sure he's okay, but a lot of his close friends and family live right in the neighborhood just nearby. Of course, they were concerned. These were some very nervous moments. You see some of them consoling each other with hugs now. I'm going to perhaps check in with one of them later, see if they'd like to share any of their updates with what this was like going through, but we know that so many in the community have been showing their support. As far as we know, Garfield is out. That's the good news, but a lot of work ahead. Home insurance claims and a long road ahead, perhaps some medical recovery there, but we'll send it back to you for now in the studio with one silver lining. The firefighters were able to pull this man to safety, and he's alive and well for now, awaiting further medical review. Live in North City, Mark Maxwell, 5 on your side.
Yeah, nothing short of a miracle how they were able to do that, and the painstaking process from brick by brick getting him out. So thank you, Mark. We want to check in with Brent Solomon. He is at, I guess you could say, a command post where police and first responders have set up. Brent.
A very good evening to you all. We are at the Kings Highway area where the White Castle restaurant is, and I can tell you what one person described it as, a disaster area. And I can tell you what, the damage is widespread all across the city of St. Louis. Even right here, you can kind of see signs of the storm that struck earlier this afternoon. Here you see a sign that's now on the ground. Let's continue to pan our way around where police have this intersection closed as they've created a staging area with firefighters to respond to people who need help or may be trapped. You can see down traffic signals right here. Right next to that, workers at the nearby Taco Bell cleaning up, sweeping from the damage outside of their facilities. And it doesn't stop there. As we continue to kind of pan around, you can see signs that were on businesses are now missing. Damages to roofs at this hour, and a lot of people just trying to figure out what that road to recovery will look like. We heard earlier today a message coming in from city leaders asking that you avoid using your cell phone right now. In situations like this, it's very tempting to take photos and share videos and pick up the phone and call people. But that ties up the phone lines, and at this hour, people who are in need of emergency help need to be able to phone in to first responders to get the assistance they need. So if you could help out in that regard by avoiding cell phone use during this difficult hour. We are continuing to survey the damage. Police and the mayor giving updates frequently. They just advised us that we'll get another update in less than 2 hours. So 5 on your side is all over it. Stick with us, but for now, that is the very latest from where we are, Kings Highway and Del Mar in St. Louis. Let's send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Brent. And yes, we are. We have crews everywhere, including the scene in North City where just minutes ago, 45-year-old Garfield was rescued from his home. His home had collapsed collapsed on top of him. Mark Maxwell is with a family member, a very happy family member. Mark.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks for checking in here. We're with Rhea, Ashley, and Rayleigh. Is that right? These are family of Garfield, and I was standing by watching you guys deal with all that. What are you feeling right now?
Blessed. We feel blessed because after the tornado, you know, we come back with our moms gone. Her house is gone, and just being able to pull our brother out.
Yeah, you were here. You're his sister.
Yes.
And Ashley, I just met you now, but I saw you over there waiting and watching. There were a lot of cheers at the end, but you didn't quite know if those cheers were going to come the whole time.
No, we weren't sure because he was so trapped deep underneath the rubble. He was up under 2 stories of house. So we didn't really know if he was going to be okay, and we were just really worried about him. And we're just relieved to know that he's alive, you know.
So are we. And Rayleigh, I don't even know what you must have been thinking watching firefighters and police wave after wave try to go in at the bottom, then go in at the top. What's going through your mind as you see all that?
I don't really know what to feel right now. I'm happy that he's okay, but I'm also really sad because I've lived in his house since I was, 5 months, and all my life. Me and my cousins, we grew up here, and it's just all the memories and stuff that I can't make anymore here, but I guess everything does happen for a reason.
Well, I just want you to know that there are so many of our viewers and people watching who have been really rooting for you guys all as a family, and that this community is going to wrap their arms around you guys and give some support. Rhea, do you have any idea or indication from the medics or from the first responders how your brother's doing right now?
So far, he's doing really good. He's on his way to the hospital now, so we'll be able to get some more information soon.
You guys have been real troopers, and I think that he had to really appreciate those cheers. I think you were the loudest maybe among those people cheering. I heard that, and I think I could see out of the corner of his eye that he really wanted to kind of look over and see you guys too. So I look forward to you guys giving him a hug soon. And thanks for staying with us and dealing with all this. This has been kind of a crazy day. You guys want to have any last thoughts here?
I want everybody to know that even though you think that this might never happen to you, you never do know. We never thought that this house would ever fall down. It's been up since the 1800s, and you never know what can happen. So just always take everything serious, no matter how little it is. Just take everything serious.
Tornado sirens go off here all the time. I told my mom when we showed up, she would have been in her bed. Her bed is right there. She would have been in her bed. She probably would not be alive right now. So just know, take these tornado sirens serious, and it can hit anybody. It can happen to anybody.
We're so glad that Garfield had taken that shelter there in the pantry. We'll let you guys to it. I know you have a long road ahead tonight. Let us know how we can help. But for now, we'll send it back to you, Kelly, in the studio.
All right, thank you, Mark. And it's just, we're all so happy that he was, there was a happy ending for that, for Garfield. And as that young lady was saying, as Scott always says, go to your safe spot.
Okay, so folks who are just joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we've been watching this extremely emotional and really just stunning coverage of tornado impacts in the St. Louis area. Just recently hearing from the family of a man who was trapped inside a home when that home collapsed amid the storm impacts. This was a very laborious rescue effort with rescuers trying to remove debris. And eventually freeing this man. As you just heard a few moments ago, he is on the way to the hospital. His family believes that he's going to be okay. At first check, that seems to be his condition. And we'll mention throughout the rescue efforts, we were told that he was conscious, he was speaking with rescuers, he was even directing rescuers as they were moving debris off of him, just to let them know the impacts he was feeling from the movement of that debris. As you can see here, they are not totally in the clear quite yet, but it sounds like maybe in the next few minutes this tornado watch will expire for them. Keep in mind it says until 7 p.m. That's local time there. That would be 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. So as you can see, eastern counties and southern counties still kind of under the gun at this point. We are sadly hearing 4 people have been killed. There have been multiple other injuries reported. They have widespread damage. We're seeing basically every neighborhood that their reporter teams have popped up in, trees down, homes collapsed, roofs blown off. And we are also hearing that the infrastructure impacts are so much that people are being told to stay off the roadways and actually stay off of their cell phones because of the damage to the systems there. The cell phone systems being taxed, and they don't want to tie up any of the phone lines for people who need emergency help right in that very moment. So we'll continue to listen in here to KSDK in St. Louis, deep in their continuous coverage here of the impacts following what we told are at least 2 confirmed tornadoes that touched down today.
Cornell in particular, try to stay off the roads in these areas that have been hard hit this evening. It's not easy to get around, and there's a lot of emergency response that's ongoing in these areas. So, and that does include back into Clayton, Forest Park, through the Central West End here. Basically, this started pretty close to Richmond, Maple Heights, and then rolled in and across parts of North St. Louis City as well before moving across the river. Now, we haven't had a lot of damage reports from across the river that we've heard of at this point, but we do know that Madison County has a pretty substantial number of power outages. At the top of the hour in Madison County, Illinois, over 17,000. In the city, you're talking close to 40,000, about 45,000 in St. Louis County. Some of those may be easy fixes. In some cases where we have whole power poles that are down, that won't be so much of an easy fix as we head into that. You're not going to get, it won't do it. Yeah, it won't do it, Jimmy.
Just a little higher.
This one's, which one went up? The city?
Actually, Madison County.
Madison County. Okay, so Madison County's gone up in Illinois. There's what's going on down to our south here with the storms pushing away. This is the best news of all. Your sky is pretty much clear at this point, and it is going to stay quiet through the weekend. So Kelly, tomorrow should be a mostly sunny day. It's much cooler, only in the 70s for highs, comfortable on Sunday. Slim chance for a spot shower Sunday, but for most of us, it's just a partly to mostly cloudy day. A comfortable, quiet, peaceful weekend.
News. Yes, we want to check in once again with Justina Cornell. She is live in the Central West End. What do you have for us now, Justina?
Yeah, so kind of just some updates here at the Kingside Diner. Like we had mentioned earlier, that the window was blown out. So now it has been boarded up, as you can see. So it took a couple of hours to get it fully boarded up. All of the glass is on the side here. Again, if you are walking around, be careful. We don't want you stepping on any glass. I want to make sure you're being safe. I spoke to the manager here. They actually have another location in Clayton, and they said there was so much traffic just to get to this location. It took what a normal would be probably like a 10 to 15 minute drive was about 45 minutes to an hour. So again, lots of traffic out here. I want us to pan to a little bit to our left here. You can see just a bit of the congestion we're seeing out here. There's just usually, it's not as this busy, but there is definitely a lot of cars here because the next street over is Kings Highway, and we know that parts of it are blocked off right now so people can get to BJC. Now we're going to go walk on Maryland right now. Again, kind of what we'll be doing all day is kind of walking around because I really want you guys to see some of the damage that we're seeing here. We're going to go past this massive chess piece so you can see some of the trees that have just been uprooted from the ground. So let's keep moving over here. So again, you can see a ton of just debris on the ground. Just these are the smaller branches, some of the smaller things that we're seeing here. But as we move further and further up, we're seeing bigger trees. I mean, some of these are just really, really big. And so again, like I had been mentioning, a lot of us park. This is my neighborhood. I actually live on Maryland. And so a lot of us park on the street because a lot of us don't have parking or like something to put under. So these trees have been falling on these cars, and we've been seeing a lot of people coming out here assessing the damage. Seen a lot of windows blown out in the back. We saw one woman come up clearly upset that her car was just underneath a tree. So as you come up here, we see a ton of people out here really just looking at the property. We're moving around again, seeing a lot of just down trees here. But as we move up further, this is where two of them are just impressive to see them just uprooted from the ground and then taking the sidewalk with it. Sorry, we're kind of walking here. Definitely the traffic has slowed down. I think people are actually listening to the warnings, which is good, because right now there's just a lot of glass down power lines, trees down. So we want to make sure you're being safe, but also people are out here really looking to see at the damage. So we want to make sure people there can be looking at that, but also kind of avoid that. So further up, we're going to wrap up right now, but what I wanted to show you was just two massive trees uprooted from the ground. It's been just a lot of work out here, people trying to clean up. So we want to make sure you're being safe, try to stay off the roads. Kelly, we're going to send it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Justina, for that report. And we want to check in with Megan Kernan. She is live in Carondelet Park. Megan, how much damage are you experiencing there? A lot of trees, I can only imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of trees. Now they have cleared it out. We are just outside of Carondelet Park. Now, we know that Mayor Kara Spencer said that one person died near the Carondelet area, so we came out here to see what we could find, and we did find this blue Ford truck that has been completely smashed. And completely, smashed, as you can see, just on all sides, the front windshield and inside it. They have been loading it up on the tow truck. The city tow truck is going to be taking it out here soon, but we really don't have any details, of what happened here with this blue truck. But we do know that Mayor Spencer said that one person did die in the Carondelet area, so we are trying to get some of that information. I know that Mitch McCoy with SLMPD said that 4 people have died in these storms, and so we're just curious to see, what this truck has to do with it, if at all. Reporting live in St. Louis, Megan Kernan, 5 on your side.
All right, thank you, Megan. We want to check in with Annie Krall as we are just about to wrap up our coverage of this storm. Annie Krall is, I believe, are you still on Lee Avenue, Annie, in North City?
No, actually, Kelly, I moved a couple blocks south. I'm right on Margarita Avenue. I'm not far from Turner Avenue that's had some problems in North City as well. And as you can see behind me, we have a house that has been completely collapsed. So far, we've gotten confirmed from officials there have been 4 fatalities in the cities. And you see some families sitting around us. We're not sure as of now if it is a confirmed fatality on this Margarita Avenue, but there are certainly, the fire department is out here. There are family, neighbors all looking on. This is some of the worst devastation we've seen in North City. So we're trying to learn more, speaking to neighbors, speaking to officials. Of course, the fire department being here is a good indication, but even getting over here to Margarita Avenue was a challenge because there are full trees that are blocking roads, and of course many of the one-ways in this area, it's hard to get over here. So the complete trees falling down, and of course the house behind us having so much devastation is hard to see. So we will continue to ask questions in the surrounding area as the cleanup continues. For now, they're reporting live in North City. Annie Krall, 5 on your side.
Okay, thank you, Annie. We want to get some final words from Brent Solomon. He is at the command post that they have set up, city officials. What's the latest, Brent?
A very good evening to you guys. I want to let you know this is a situation where it's all hands on deck. If I get out of the way here and we're at Kings Highway and Del Mar, I see state police, I see local police, I see firefighters from multiple agencies working together, and the big challenge right here is getting to people who are in need. We have confirmed 4 people have died. That number, we don't know if it could grow because authorities in many cases are responding to calls where people needed help. We will continue to stay in touch with authorities. We will have a press conference with the mayor and with police coming up in about an hour or so. So stay with 5 on your side as we learn the very latest and as we all work to get through this storm. We're live in St. Louis. Brent Solomon, 5 on your side.
And I want to give an update, a graduation update. Because of the storms, Granite City High School, class of 2025, their graduation has been postponed. The ceremony has been rescheduled for Saturday, May 17th at 9 a.m. They've had damage to the scoreboard and speakers at Kevin Green Field.
Coverage wrapping up here from KSTK in St. Louis as we're watching here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus the aftermath of at least 2 confirmed tornadoes that touched down in the St. Louis area today, wreaking widespread damage as we saw multiple neighborhoods impacted, buildings collapsed, roofs torn off. Unfortunately, 4 people killed. The potential for more, we don't know, but we do know that other people are injured, and it sounded like some folks who are injured in area hospitals might be in serious or critical condition. So we will continue to follow the latest there out of St. Louis as they deal with a massive wallop from this storm system. And it looks like as we've reached the top of the hour here, fortunately for them, their tornado watch should be expiring. And as we've heard their meteorology team explain, they should be in good shape for better weather for at least the next few days, because we know the cleanup is going to be extensive there. As we get more information, we'll certainly bring you out there, either live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, or with the very latest on our evening newscasts or morning newscasts here as they come up as regularly scheduled. But really just heartbreaking images that we saw. We are also hearing, of course, infrastructure damage. So they were even telling folks to essentially ration their cell phone use because there's not enough cell phone service, if you will, to go around for everybody who is trying to make phone calls to emergency responders. Speaking of emergency responders, I mean, the rescue of that gentleman who was stuck in the collapsed home, the reporters out there were calling him Garfield, so that was the name, his name, at least first name that we knew. But I mean, just unbelievable. Some laborious work that we are watching. That the rubble of the home on top of him, we're told he was stuck in the basement, and it took a long time for rescuers to meticulously remove all that debris, eventually pull him to safety and transport him to an area hospital, hearing from his family saying that they're so grateful that he's alive, that he seems to be okay, that he's going to be okay. And they also had a message, which I think is an important message to share. And they said, take everything seriously when it comes to these weather warnings. They said, don't think that this can't happen to you. They said they would never have thought that their home could have collapsed like this. It sounded like it was an old home, an historic home in some ways. And they said that it had survived the years. And as you saw with some of the imagery here, brought to you live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, leveled in an instant because of this storm. So we'll continue to follow and bring you the very latest there from St. Louis. Okay. With that, we want to turn the page here and kind of on a lighter note, because we've got a lot of great sports to talk about in the Queen City coming up this weekend. We did want to talk about Charlotte FC, which is back in town. Saturday, there's going to be a match against Chicago Fire, and probably maybe fans excited for them to be back on home turf. So let's bring in Callum Williams, who's play-by-play voice for soccer and is joining us live right now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Okay, so we mentioned Charlotte back here. They'll be playing in Bank of America Stadium. Probably good for them considering the losing streak they're on and the fact that they do seem to be playing so well when they are at home, right?
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to speak to Dean Smith, the head coach of Charlotte FC, a little earlier today. And he said to me, look, at the moment, performance-wise, it's actually been okay. It's not been disastrous, but from a results point of view, obviously very disappointing. You know, Vanessa, it's the first time in franchise history that the team have gone 4 Major League Soccer defeats in a row. This happens in some way, shape or form throughout any season, throughout the entirety of world football. This is not something to be panicking about, in my opinion. This is just a bad stretch of form for Charlotte FC. But the one thing that Dean Smith understands is how important these home games are now. They are beyond integral. In the next 9 games in Major League Soccer, just 2 of them are at home. And Dean Smith was very quick to say to me today he understands how integral victories are, particularly in front of what he called some of the best fans he's ever seen in world football.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly, anyone who's gone to a match knows that atmosphere and how that really can play into things in a positive way. Seemingly, one of the recent struggles we're seeing with Charlotte is just not capitalizing on potentials to score. So what do you think the team can do to try to navigate that problem?
Yeah, look, you're completely right. It's been a problem for Charlotte FC. Since coming into Major League Soccer several years ago, I can't think off the top of my head ever there really being a player where you look at on the roster on paper and you think, yeah, that's the guy that's going to score multiple goals. That's the guy that's going to get you out of a problem should you find yourself in one. Patrick Augiman got 10 goals last year, and I think surprised a lot of people. Did very well with the US men's national team, 3 goals in 4 games. But again, Dean Smith said to me just earlier today that he's yet to really find his rhythm. This week has been difficult because it's been 3 games in 7 days. Obviously, the majority of those games have been on the road as well, so Dean Smith has had to move people in and out. I'd expect Patrick Augiman to start tomorrow against Chicago Fire because I think he matches up quite well with who I expect to play at centre-half for Chicago Fire. But that doesn't mean he'll offer a goal threat. So I've said before on various different podcasts and what have you that I think he offers a lot. I think he's very good in terms of holding the ball up. I think he's very good in terms of offering an option as a target man and bringing people into play, offering an outlet when Charlotte find themselves deep in their own half and they need to get out very quickly. He's the kind of person that can hold the ball up. He's very good at getting in behind as well, which has been useful for Charlotte because they're very good at playing long, direct balls over the top as well. But the problem with Patrick Augiman has always been he's not been consistent enough in front of goal. They've had options in the likes of Lil Abada. They've had Pep Biel, of course, who has scored goals over the course of the season so far. But the big problem for Charlotte at the moment, as you quite rightly say, is there's no real major recognised goal scorer. I wonder if they'll address that in the next window over the summer.
All right, Jeb here, the producer. From one side of the pitch to the other, we've seen reports that Christian Kalina may be entering paternity leave. It looks like the birth of his first child. Obviously, former goalkeeper of the year, had a little bit of some form struggles, if you will. You know, probably let a goal or 2 in against Nashville that he probably would like back. David Bingham, you know, we saw he was fantastic with the Earthquakes, bit of a journeyman. Do we think he'll get the nod? Have you heard anything about the goalkeeping situation tomorrow?
No, all I heard was that his wife had gone into labour, and obviously we wish him and his family all the best with that situation, and we hope that ultimately they have a bouncing baby that is good and healthy and no problem. And in this instance, I think football can be pushed aside, right? But honestly, having seen football across the world for many a year now, it wouldn't surprise me if the baby is born and everything's good and Christian Kalina finds himself on the pitch the next day, because that's just what footballers tend to do. They understand the importance of 3 points, and I'm sure it'll come with the blessing of his partner. But Christian Kalina, to my understanding, I think he's going to be okay and raring to go. I'm not entirely sure how much sleep he's going to get. But look, if he isn't ready to go, as you mentioned, Jeb, they have a reliable backup in David Bingham, who's been in the league for many, many years, as you mentioned, with the Galaxy and San Jose Earthquakes, Portland Timbers, hundreds of appearances in Major League Soccer in his mid-30s now. So if there is the need for the stand-in goalkeeper, then Charlotte FC will be in safe hands.
All right, Vanessa back here in the anchor seat, taking over with this next question here. So I guess we'll keep it here defensively because we have been seeing some, I guess, unusual mistakes from folks and also some injuries that are kind of making things a bit worse for the team. So what can you say as far as that situation and how the outlook is for that going forward?
It's been an uncharacteristic spell for Charlotte FC from a defensive point of view. Let's not forget, this was the team that conceded 37 goals last year. They were second across the entirety of Major League Soccer with the second best defensive record. Only Seattle Sounders conceded fewer. So this is a team that has been built very much from the back line. And of course, Christian Kalina had a big say in many of those results and as to why they kept so many clean sheets and conceded so few goals. But Adilson Malonda has been someone who I think has shone and developed ever so well over the course of the last couple of years. I was in France just a month or so ago for work, and had a conversation with a couple of people, and some of the people involved in French football were quite confused as to how he seemed to slip through the cracks in French football. And so to my understanding, that there may very well be an eyeball or two on Adilson Malonda, because quite frankly, he's been one of the best defenders across Major League Soccer, particularly over the course of the last 2 years, I think. And so they'll need him to step up. I think it's 31 clearances so far this year, which makes him technically and statistically the most busiest defender in Major League Soccer, which is not a stat you ever really want involved with your team. But Malonda has been near flawless, and once again, they'll need him to step up. Tim Ream obviously has an abundance of experience, has played at the World Cup, has been there and gotten the T-shirt in the English Premier League and with the US men's national team. So I think now this is about experience for Charlotte and the backline. But I also wonder how much protection are that Charlotte FC backline getting? I'm a big fan of Ashley Westwood. He played for my team in England for many years, Aston Villa. But at the age of 35 now, I wonder, does he just need a little bit more help alongside him in protecting the back line? Because it's clear Charlotte right now are conceding a lot of opportunities.
Jeb again here, and we talk about experienced midfielders. Well, it might necessarily be helping out Westy. I want to talk about Pep Biel. Obviously, coming back from an injury, didn't necessarily look like himself against Nashville, but I think there are arguments, a few members of the team could say the same. Should we expect the old Pep Biel back at home, or are we still concerned about that injury he picked up? Is he still coming back? What are you hearing?
I think it depends really, Jeb, in the role that he plays in. I know for the last game or two he's played in a wider area and has been tucked inside a little bit, almost in the half spaces. And that's a good role for him, tucking inside on his favoured foot and being able to provide service for whoever the centre forward is going to be. But I think they just need to get the ball to him more. I think they need to get the ball to him quicker. I think they need to find ways to just simply move the ball quicker as well. But I think this is a situation where, look, this is a player that's had no goal contribution in the last 3 games. This was after 7 in the first 6. He started the season miraculously and marvellously. And again, I think this is a situation where sometimes players just go through a little bit of a rut. It's 3 games without a goal contribution. It's not like it's 10 games, you know. And so I just think they need to find some consistency. They need to find a little bit of rhythm. And if they can move the ball in the manner in which they want to, find the feet of Pep Biel. And if Patrick Agyemang makes the runs he's supposed to do and opens up some space, I could see the likes of Leo Labada and co. Really being the beneficiary of the likes of Pep Biel and Patrick Agyemang against Chicago Fire.
All right, Vanessa back here again. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but I do feel like Charlotte FC fans are getting to the point where I think there's an expectation that they do better and better every year. As we talk about potentials for playoffs, I know in the distance, in the future. How do you feel the team is gelling and coming together and comparing to maybe other teams in the standings? Do you feel confident? How are you feeling as we get closer and closer?
I think they're good. I think, like every team, particularly in what is an extraordinarily competitive Eastern Conference this year, they will think they have a chance. They will think that they will be able to finish in the top 4, which nowadays in Major League Soccer guarantees you a home playoff game. But the problem is, Vanessa, is that there's about 10 to 12 teams that think the same as well. So it's very competitive right now. And I keep going back to what we mentioned earlier on and the lack of goals, really, for Charlotte. And again, Dean Smith said to us this morning that the problem has been not being able to put the ball away consistently on a regular basis. And, you know, I think right now, if you look at the front 4 that they have, and the front 4, front 5, depending on how you draw it up, I think there's goals in it. The late arriving runs of Brant Bronico have caused problems, but I wouldn't describe him as a major goal scorer. Leo Labada has, I think it's 3 goals in the last 4 games now, who can provide plenty from the central midfield or in the wide areas, depending on where he's played. But I think, with all due respect, I think when you have somebody like Wilfred Zaha on the roster, this is a player that I'm sure many Charlotte FC fan knows, and many viewers of soccer in the state will know that he played for Crystal Palace. He played for Manchester United, albeit very briefly. He's plied his trade in Turkey for the last couple of years. He had an opportunity to play at Lyon in Ligue 1 in the top tier of French football as well. And so this is a player with a very, very good footballing resume. And so for somebody like him to come here is great for Major League Soccer. I don't think it's as big as what it would have been, say, 5 or 10 years ago, but somebody being here shows the ambition of Charlotte. It shows the type of club that they want to be. It shows they're not afraid to spend money. But the simple fact of the matter is that 4 goals in 11 games is okay, but no assist in 11 games I think is slightly problematic for somebody who is a designated player, somebody who is earning a lot of money. Quite frankly, a lot of expectations on someone like Wilfried Zaha, quite rightly so as well. So I mentioned the word consistency earlier on, Vanessa. He would be somebody who I think the club need to desperately see more consistency from.
Yeah, too right you are. Anything else you'd like to leave us with here before we wrap things up regarding Saturday?
Look, I will say Chicago Fire are a very good team. They have been on a bit of a rancid run over the course of the last couple of weeks, but they did get themselves back to winning ways against Atlanta United last week. And Atlanta not having a great season, but they've spent an awful lot of money as well, and on paper have arguably one of the best teams in Major League Soccer. At the moment, Chicago Fire, I think, lack a little bit of defensive organization. But at the moment, from an attacking perspective, they have the Danish winger Zinkernagel, who is very, very dangerous, is somebody who causes problems by tucking inside as well. Bamba was a league winner with Lille just 3 years ago, was playing in the Champions League. Coming in from Celta Vigo in the off-season and has been very dangerous as well. But the main threat for Chicago Fire is Hugo Kuipers. Hugo Kuipers is a Belgian centre-forward who scored no fewer than 54 goals in 2 seasons in the Belgian top flight. Came to Major League Soccer last year and scored 10 goals, did okay, but has had a new lease of life under Greg Berhalter. And he's finding himself so many opportunities. He's finding himself in the right positions to score the goals that he needs to. 8 goals in 12 games already so far this year in Major League Soccer. So that's the main threat from a Chicago Fire point of view. But I think, as you mentioned quite rightly so, given the home record that Charlotte have, I think Dean Smith will expect a home win on Saturday.
As we all will, who are rooting for Charlotte FC. Callum, this was so much fun. Thanks for joining us here on Live Impact News. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Have a great weekend. And folks at home, we'll remind you, Chicago Fire, Charlotte FC, Bank of America Stadium, 7:30 Saturday. All right. We're going to turn now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus to another big update that we got today. For folks who've been following the stream here throughout the afternoon, we've been very closely watching these escaped inmates in the New Orleans area. And we just got an update this evening from authorities once again. For folks who've been keeping track, you'll remember the original count of inmates they believed were escaped was 11. Now that number is down to 9. It's because one of the inmates has been apprehended at this point. He was apprehended in the French Quarter. And then there was another inmate who was actually believed to be among those who escaped, but they actually were able to account for him there at the facility. So the search continues, and it sounds like there are some rewards out. And there's also a lot of interesting dialogue over security measures and, quite frankly, lacking security measures that authorities are talking about, issues with locks here at this facility, the potential that it might have been somewhat of an inside job with potentially jail workers helping these inmates to escape. And new tonight here on Live Impact News, we're getting images, new videos showing these inmates running from the facility, running from the building, running across the highway, trying to get away. So really, really compelling images to see in just a few moments. Let's listen in now to this update this evening from New Orleans.
All right. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here so we can get more information out to our community. We are joined here today by our partners who are helping us to put this investigation together to get these folks back into custody. We are joined here by the FBI, the new SAC who's in the back. We are also joined by our partners at the New Orleans Police Department, Chief Gantier, the State Police. We've got a couple of members of the State Police here to support us. Crime Stoppers and CEO Costanza. And we are going to start off with OPSO Major Silas Phipps Jr., who is over our Investigative Services Bureau, to give you an update about that. We'll then have Chief Jay Mallett, who is our warden over the jail, to discuss a little bit more about that. Major Stephanie Minto, who is our Crime Victims Reparations Unit Commander. Darlene Costanza will be next after that, and then the SAC from the FBI will be final. Major Phipps.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all for being here. I'll start by providing you an update on where we are with the investigation. Just an overview of the original timeline. So at approximately 8:30 this morning, OPSO jail operations staff found that several inmates on Pod 1 Delta were missing during their head count. That jail staff immediately began a systematic search of the facility for those inmates as members of our investigatory team began combing through video to see where they could have gone. At the time of the incident, there was no deputy physically on Pod 1 Delta, and the technician that was assigned to the housing unit module had actually stepped away to grab food. After reviewing video, we noticed that at 12:22 a.m., several inmates on Pod 1 Delta were observed jarring one of the sliding doors open, specifically on cell Delta 1006. At 12:43 a.m., those same individuals entered that cell. At 1 a.m., they were observed on camera exiting our facility using an adjacent loading dock door, so a loading dock door adjacent to that pod, and subsequently going down a side road behind our building, still within our secure perimeter between the Phase 3 facility that's currently under construction. At 1:19 a.m., they were then observed scaling the fence along the I-10 between our building and the currently under construction Phase 3, using blankets to avoid being cut by the barbed wire. Those individuals subsequently ran across the westbound and eastbound lanes of I-10 and then entered the neighborhood. This morning, after investigators became involved, they subsequently found clothing that they shed in that neighborhood. Although it was previously reported that there were 11 escapees, there were 10. 9 remain at large. 1 was apprehended earlier today, which you've covered, and 1 person previously reported as an escapee was located inside the facility. As of right now, 3 employees have been placed on suspension pending the outcome of this fluid and ongoing investigation. We do have a video we're going to play with you, and I will kind of narrate just to kind of show you what I've already said, and then I'll go from there after. So if you take a look at the screen. So as you see here, on the screen, this is where you see inmates jarring open this sliding door to the cell that they used to escape. The whole, this is all of you see. So, we have enough.
Can you start the music?
Sure.
We'll provide this to y'all as well.
All right, so you see them jarring open the door. They get it open. Subsequently, they go inside that cell, and this is where you see them exiting the loading dock door. As you know, if you notice, they are carrying in blankets with them. This road that they're going out of is behind this building, as I explained. They subsequently go through another door, and here, at some point, you will see them come through here, and they scale the fence through this door that's near the construction site. They scale that fence, and then make good on their escape crossing all lanes of I-10. see them going across as we speak. And as Casey said, we will share those videos with you all.
So if you had video of them.
1 second, we still have more to go. Go ahead.
We would like to acknowledge the over 200 law enforcement personnel that are assisting this investigation. They represent partner agencies, the Louisiana State Police, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Louisiana Office of Probation and Parole, Louisiana Attorney General's Office, the New Orleans Police Department, the Orleans and East Jefferson Levy District Police Departments, United States Marshal's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Homeland Security Investigations, the Office of Alcohol, Tobacco Control and Explosives, the St. Tammany and St. Bernard Parish Sheriff's Offices. I will now turn it over to Chief Jay Mallett.
Thank you. What I would like to do is kind of point to you what we believe is the exit point of where the inmates left. What you're looking at here is a vantage point where you're behind the cell in the pipe chase. And as you can see, these are rebars that reinforce the structure. There are clean cuts here, and the plumbing has been removed. All of this is on the outside of the cell, behind in the pipe chase. This is how it looks initially. As you can see, we have bolts that hold those fixtures in place. These are again on the back side into the pipe chase. All of this has been removed, and these have been clean cut. We have reason to believe that there was some assistance with this. That's why we're thoroughly investigating. And as Major Phipps has said, we placed 3 individuals on administrative leave pending the outcome of this investigation.
Good afternoon, all. I am Major Stephanie Minta Gibson, and I oversee the Crime Victims Unit for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. Once I was notified about the escapees, I immediately gathered a team of experienced staff, and we started calling victims and survivors just to make sure that they are aware of what was going on and that they are safe. For the records that had no information, I immediately reached out to our partners. Partners such as NOPD Special Victims Unit, Detective Walton, who was very grateful in helping us, and she provided us with other information that we were able to call those families and help them as well. Once we finished the first batch of victims, we started calling the second batch, and actually the reason why I'm saying that is because I separated them. The chief from the DA's office, victims, Alison Morgarder, reached out to me, and we both were calling victims. What she had and I did not have, we shared information, and we both gathered all the information, and we made sure all victims were aware of what was going on. Most of the victims were very grateful for the calls. They graciously thanked us. We additionally sent our detectives to their homes for more safety measures, and that alone speaks measures. I strongly encourage all to educate the community on the importance of Vine Link. This is a free app that is listed online, and it is also a guide for victims and survivors to track offenders while they navigate the criminal justice system. The number for Vine is 1-800-277-7477. I'm sorry, it's 1-866-277-7477. We are located here on the 3rd floor of the Sheriff's Office, and our contact number here is 504-827-6754, 504-202-9229. Thank you.
Good evening. As you know, Crime Stoppers has been in this community offering anonymous, asking for anonymous tips and offering cash rewards for that information for over 40 years, close to 50 years. And what we do is we allow you to come forward through either our phone number, and that number you hear it every day, 504-822-1111. You can go to the crimestoppersgno.org website and post a tip, or you can use our mobile app. It's Crime Stoppers GNO Say It Here. No matter how you come to Crime Stoppers, you remain anonymous. We're not tracking your IP, we're not tracking your phone number, we're not asking you to be a witness. But what we're asking you to do today to help the individuals here is to make the call. If you know someplace that someone likes to frequent, you know someplace that they may be, somewhere they might visit, a friend that might be helping, give the call, make the call, send the tip. Now today we're also announcing an increased reward of $2,000 on each apprehension. So if there are 9 individuals that we're looking for, that's $2,000 on each of the 9 individuals. You have to go through Crime Stoppers. We asked you to come through Crime Stoppers because we're going to keep you anonymous. That's the trusted program. That's the way that we operate. But know that the reward is there if your information leads to the apprehension, and that will come from law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Tapp, Special Agent in charge of the FBI here in New Orleans. FBI New Orleans has a command post up and running to help search for the escaped inmates. We are offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the arrest of any of these escaped inmates. If you have information on their whereabouts, we're asking you call 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online to fbi.gov/New Orleans fugitives. We're working side by side with our law enforcement partners. New Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office remains the lead investigative agency here, and we are helping. Thank you very much.
We'll take questions from each. Go ahead from Channel 4.
Yeah, is there any indication that friends or family on the outside were aware in advance or communicating about these plans?
And we're not going to get into the details of the investigation, Major Phipps, but we're looking at all angles.
What does it say, and I mean this respectfully, but you said, and I'm going to quote you here, that you observed those guys running out at 1 o'clock in the morning. What does it say for jailhouse safety and security when you see a jailbreak like that, but you fail to notify anyone, NOPD, the public, anyone?
We didn't say that.
What did you say then?
Yeah, we observed on the video later this morning. We had to pull that video.
He said you observed at 1 a.m.
So let's be clear. I said what we observed on the video through the investigation. So yes, when they looked at the video this morning after the staff realized they were gone, my investigators found that at 1 a.m. that's what happened.
So no one was watching live video all night at the jail?
I won't say no one was watching live video.
Then how did nobody see them leaving the jail?
There are over 900 cameras.
How did nobody see them leaving the jail?
There are over 900 cameras in this facility.
It's just, how did no one see a massive jailbreak?
The why and how is part of the investigation. So we have interviewed, I think, all of our employees, and we are interviewing all of the residents of that particular pod as well. And then there's a lot of people that you've got to wade through their interviews to find out, to get down to the details of what happened. There was somebody on duty.
Sheriff, a source told us that phone calls haven't been monitored over the past week, and escaped inmates were planning how they were going to get out through phone calls. Were you all monitoring phone calls?
We monitor phone calls all the time. There are 1,400 people in this jail, over the City Council 1250 limit. So can you monitor every single person every day? No, we don't have the bodies to do that. But we do monitor, and we rely on tips, and we have an intelligence unit that monitors what's going on in the jail. There's a lot of things at any given time going on.
But it's your job. It's your job to monitor every single person in this facility every day.
Visually, with our deputies on the pods. Yes.
I did have a question. The former sheriff, Marlon Gusman, he disputes the claims that there were a lot of issues here at the facility after he left. Do you stand by your statement about the issues with it? And also, we learned that you have a $14 million fund balance. Why wasn't that money used to repair the locks? If you could talk about that.
Can I speak I can speak more intelligently, I believe, to the physical plant in the jail. Not necessarily design, but at some point this jail was planned, and it was obviously planned to be a minimum custody facility. I don't know what the dynamics of the population was in New Orleans as far as those incarcerated around that time, but that is not the dynamic now. Right now we have 24 pods, and 90% of those pods are populated with high security inmates. Those are people that are predatory, assaultive, violent, and aggressive. So we're in the process now of developing an ad-seg unit, because we identified a large number of individuals that needed to be on some type of restrictive housing environment that did not exist at this facility. So it's plenty of deficiencies when we start to talk about the physical plan. So it's not correct to say that those things didn't exist, because, I mean, they're prevalent.
This jail opened in 2015, and in 2022 they never had a jailbreak. So when you say it's not built for that, or it's not ready, they never had a jailbreak from 2015 to 2022
You got to think
like
about, the
this.
sheriff says that all the time. She talks about the 83% recidivism rate. So you got people in and out of here all the time. So they've been here and
But you
know
just
the
said
place.
this is a minimum security.
No, I said
you said it's a minimum security facility.
I said it was built, had to be built for a minimum. So
They had maximum security inmates in here from 2015 to 2022.
You start talking about locks. I don't know of a max security inmate. Right now they had an objective classification system in place. I don't know if that was in place to identify properly if there were max security. It may have been everybody clumped together. We know now, based on our objective criteria, that we do have people that are classified at a higher security level than what this particular facility was built for.
Yeah, Chief.
Talking about failures in the pods, is there a maintenance and service contract at this time in place? Is there a maintenance and service contract in place? We're talking about failures within the pod. Once again, is there a maintenance and service contract in place? Travers gets asked multiple questions. We're asking another question. Is there a maintenance and service contract in place with the pod?
There's a convicted murderer in there, right, who had already been convicted, and he was in among these 10, right? Were they in separate cells? Everyone was in a minimum security area?
Everyone here is two to a cell, and that's what we have. And we've been in constant communication with anybody that's been convicted with the Department of Corrections to come and pick up those individuals that have been convicted. We have 78 individuals right now. We've been in communication with the Department of Corrections, and they're assured us that they're going to come and get these
So
individuals.
what about Derrick Rose?
I'm not familiar with Derrick Rose if he's been sentenced. I know he's been here for a long period of time. So if he's been recently sentenced, that's great. He would have been on our list. He may be aware of that. He'll be on our list to go to the Department of Corrections. But the Department of Corrections and Public Safety have worked with us to move several inmates that have been sentenced. They come twice a week. I just got off the phone when I stepped out here then with the Department of Corrections to identify how many individuals we have that have been sentenced, that are taking up space, that are high security people, that have long sentences, and they all are violent.
And what's being done to protect the witnesses in that case? Is there something being done to protect the witnesses who testified against him?
I deal with details, so there'll be someone.
That's what Captain meant to address earlier. All those have been in contact.
Talking about the pods and the deteriorating conditions, is there a maintenance and service contract in place to make repairs? And we're also hearing that critical cameras were down for weeks.
We have, this is our CFO, Bianca Brown, to talk more about that.
Hi, so I'm Bianca Brown. So based upon the question that you asked earlier about the fund balance related to the 2023 audit, I'll give you the breakdown of that. 4.2 million was related to accounts payable. 9.5 million was related to FEMA restricted cash, but capital projects only. The seizure and restricted cash had about 98,000 in it due to others, which was processing fee, DAPs, clerk of courts, NOPD property room. They get about 97,000 of that money. We had due to the Department of Public Safety for civilian backgrounds that we conduct. That was about 400,000. And then we also had a detail account that's kind of restricted for radios, video cameras, tactical gear, software, and maintenance for the deputies that they pay based upon their details. So that doesn't exist. That's failed. That money doesn't exist. That was from a 2023 audit that they're reporting on, and those funds don't exist. As of today, that balance is about 6.3 million that is still due out as of 2025.
So if we could answer my question, we asked the question, nobody answered.
What is your question?
Once again, we asked multiple times, is there a maintenance and service contract in place to take care of the deteriorating conditions within the pods and within the jail?
We can't afford a maintenance and service contract. So right now, we can't afford a maintenance and service contract. We have maintenance staff that are on board that do the day-to-day. But right now, our current budget sits at about 68 million. 41.1 million comes from the city, 13 million comes from the millage, and about 10.1 million a quarter is given to us. Right now, our payroll is about 9.6. Our food expenses is 780,000 a quarter. That eats up the money. We don't have the funding available to have a full maintenance contract to do this. We've explained this on multiple occasions. Just on Monday, we went to the City Planning Commission and we reported this out. We asked for the money to secure this. So the funding is not available to do what needs to be done, and it hasn't been done.
So not appropriate enough to handle violent offenders like the ones that escaped today. Have you all considered potentially shipping them elsewhere?
We can't afford it.
Also, just
I can answer this question before you.
your budget is bigger than Marlon Gusman's was. Do you all realize that the last sheriff had a smaller budget than you have?
The budget was bigger, but guess what? Things are being deprived. So what you're seeing is a result of what's happening now. Broken doors, you got facilities, wear and tear. All of that is occurring now due to that budget. This size facility, this should have a $150 million budget easily. The budget that we have, it doesn't support what we need. I've laid out the numbers. You see, it's critical.
I want to, if I could, speak to what you said. Have we explored shipping outboarding individuals? Yes, we have. We've sent out numerous individuals, high security people, to various places. Department of Corrections and Public Safety has helped us with that. We've sent people to Plaquemine. We've sent people to Catahoula. We've sent people to Madison. We've sent people to Angola. 30%, almost 40% of those individuals we see get remanded back for various reasons. So that takes up space. And the ones we sent to Catahoula, this is important, the ones we sent to Madison and the ones we sent to Plaquemine, all of these are parole violators. So these people are convicted felons that committed a crime here in New Orleans as either a pass-through, having fun, or whatever they were doing, and they ended up in the jail.
And look, circling back, what are you specifically doing to capture these violent offenders?
What do you mean?
What is the sheriff's office doing right now to capture these violent offenders?
The sheriff's office is working along with the 200 partner offices that I mentioned earlier and actually capturing these individuals. We're providing critical intel. So we are combing through those phone calls and other messages you mentioned earlier to identify who they communicated with, where they could potentially be. So along with our partners, we are visiting those locations in search of those individuals.
Are those video calls on those iPads recorded as well? Video calls on iPads?
I can't answer whether those are recorded. I know the phone calls are recorded. I don't want to say yes or no on the video call.
Here's a question.
Specifically, what are y'all doing to capture
Chief just said yes, they are recorded.
Convicted of murder.
A CMT.
All right, we have one more question.
Okay,
Go
if
ahead.
I could.
Tibone,
Okay.
you haven't had one.
The surveillance that we saw that they were wearing their orange jumpsuits, but you said when they got into the neighborhood they shed their clothes. Was someone there waiting to give them a change of clothes? Did they have clothes as contraband underneath their jumpsuits?
So right now we can't say we haven't seen all of the video to say that from the neighborhood on whether they had additional clothing, but what we knew is they shed some of their orange.
And a CMT is a civilian position, right? Should maximum security inmates be watched by a civilian CMT? And if you could talk a little bit more, I know you said that they were on a break. Could you give us some more specifics on that?
Sure. So yes, a CMT is a corrections monitoring technician. She is a civilian. She sits in a pod module and observes the pod. That is primarily when we do not have the physical deputy staff to sit on the pod. We have a vacancy rate like every other correctional agency in the country. Every corrections has a 55% vacancy rate across this country. Like us, we are underfunded, understaffed, underpaid. So we do our best to hire staff and retain them, but like everyone else, we're short. So yes, this civilian was assigned to the pod module to observe the pod. When she stepped away to grab food, that is when they began their attempts to escape. By the time she returned, they were already into the cell or gone. So she did not even know that they had made good on their escape or made an attempt to escape.
Sheriff, do you want to speak to everybody's live in here, do you want to say you're sorry to the people of New Orleans for having this happen? I mean, we've heard from you several times today, but do you want to offer any kind of contrition or apology to people for something like this happening?
Well, first we have to find out exactly what happened and how they got out. We think this was intentional. There is much more than meets the eye in this investigation. And why did it happen just right now, right? in the middle as we're getting ready to start this sheriff's race. This is very suspicious. We know that they had help. We're showing you they had help. This was coordinated. There's much more than meets the eye. When I have enough information, I'll be glad to talk to the community about my issues or what I need, anything I may need to apologize for. But what I'm telling I'm not finished. But what I'm telling the community, this is a public safety issue first and foremost. There's much more than meets the eye. We are digging, and we are not going to stop till we find out.
What are you doing tonight to make sure that your facility is safe? What is OPSO doing tonight to make sure that this facility is safe and that no one else can escape? Once again, Sheriff.
All right, so that is the latest update tonight from New Orleans. You can hear various agencies addressing the inmate escape that happened in the overnight hours. And this is a situation where we're seeing, at latest check, 9 inmates. We'll remind you that the initial count that we heard this morning was 11. But one person has been apprehended, and that person was actually found underneath a car in the French Quarter. And then there was another person who was actually mistakenly counted among those who escaped. That person was later found out to be accounted for. It sounded like there was a discrepancy with record keeping, and they were actually in a different cell. So the total now, as far as inmates that remain at large at this hour, are 9. You heard a breakdown of some of the potential things that went wrong with this situation as far as keeping folks in the facility. It sounds like there were some issues with the locks on the doors. It sounded like the inmates were able to exploit those deficiencies with the locks. They were able to breach a wall and essentially climb over a final wall to get off the facility property, run across an interstate, and as we mentioned, are still out there. There's a reward. People are encouraged to contact Crime Stoppers with any information on where these folks could be. Keep in mind, these folks we heard from authorities have criminal histories that are of a violent nature in some cases. And so you heard authorities talking about having to notify family members of victims, letting them know that these inmates have gotten out. It even sounded like they sent deputies and police protection to some of these homes of these victims to make sure that nothing went wrong and none of these inmates were visiting them, if you will, during their escape. So more on that to come here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Meantime, we want to turn our attention here to some of the news that we can expect to see later on this evening. Because, of course, as you keep it here on WCNC+, you'll run into our next programming, and then eventually at 11 o'clock, our evening news. We have our Siobhan Riley, who's joining us here in the Live Impact News studio. So thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Siobhan, you're working on this really interesting story here, a very emotional story, it sounds like, of a child who has autism and was put on the wrong school bus. Can you tell us about this story? It sounds like you spoke with the mother, and you're getting some more information about this case.
Yeah, very, like you said, a heartwarming story. We spoke with the mother. What was really interesting was that she was reunited with the person who brought her child, who helped her find her child. Really what happened was yesterday her son was placed on the wrong school bus, and he ended up getting off on a bus stop, and he followed someone home. He followed it was a woman and her children when they got off the bus, and he just kept following them. And in the beginning, the woman told me she didn't really know what was going on. And the child followed them all the way to their home as if he was trying to come inside.
Oh, wow.
And keep in mind, this is a kid who he doesn't speak, he's nonverbal. He has autism, and so she knew something wasn't right by the time he got to her door, and that's when she went down to the front office, because this is an apartment complex, and she spoke with the folks at the front office, and they said, we don't know who this kid is, and then that's when they tried to contact CMS. She says they reached out to CMS, they called 5 times, they couldn't get anyone, then they called transportation, and after calling a few times, they reached someone. And eventually they were reunited.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad story because you think about, gosh, what if that was my child or my niece, or it's really heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the fact that there is the heartwarming element, that there was obviously a person who has a heart of gold in the situation and looked after this child. There's also kind of unsettling feeling, right? That that parents out there might be feeling, thinking that this happened to this child. What happened? What's the accountability? Have you been doing any digging into, CMS's response? What happened here? How did this actually happen?
We did reach out to CMS, and they did admit that the child was placed on the wrong school bus, that the child did get up on the wrong bus stop, and that the woman who we were telling you about found them. I think there's a lot of questions right now. The parent kind of just wants the district to take accountability, but I will say the CMS did admit that they made a mistake.
Okay. Have they addressed it all, or do you think that there might be follow-ups here to just kind of see what might be in place to make sure this doesn't happen again, or what can you tell us on that front?
Yes, definitely reaching out to CMS to find out what steps they're taking to make sure this doesn't happen again. The parent, she said, quote, she felt like the district failed her child. She was really, obviously, as you can imagine, any parent would be upset if your child gets off on the wrong school bus stop. But she definitely wants the school district to really just take action and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again to another child.
Yeah. So we mentioned that your piece is going to run tonight at 11 on our evening news, our late evening news, so folks will certainly be able to see that if they keep it here on WCNC Plus through the 11 o'clock hour. Who are we going to hear from in your piece specifically? Because it sounds like there are a lot of folks involved in this case.
Well, we spoke exclusively with the mother, and then we spoke with the woman who helped her find her child. We also see the little boy in that story. He's such a cute, he's 8 years old. He's such a cute little kid, just a very sweet kid. He even asked, he kind of he will speak a little bit if you really kind of open up to him, but he did ask to take a picture with the woman who helped find him, but we're going to hear from him. His name is Carter, a student at South Pine Academy. And so we're definitely going to hear from, you're going to see these women kind of reunite and just share their story. They give each other hugs. And you could just feel how it's almost like you can see where they're coming from when they stand next to each other and seeing them smile. And the mother just says, thank you so much for finding my child and getting him here safely, because she said this could have been completely different.
Yeah, we're so glad that it turned out the way it did, in the sense that the boy is obviously, he's safe, and it sounds like maybe there's a new friendship that was made with this woman who helped him, so that is good to hear.
Yes.
I think this is their first time joining us here on Live Impact News.
This is my first time. This is my first time even being in this room.
Yeah, well, we're so glad to have you. I feel like we need to introduce you to folks, just because you're relatively new to the team, and so for folks who are maybe tuning in on the stream, or maybe they watch us on TV and they see you on the desk sometimes and out in the field reporting on the community stories, what do people need to know about you? Where did you come from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in the weekend anchor Saturday nights, and I report during the week. And I started here back in February. I grew up in Greensboro. Greensboro is home. I moved away many, many years ago, and then just moved back to North Carolina a little over 3 years ago. And I went to the #1 HBCU in the country, might I add.
Oh.
North Carolina A&T State University.
Uh-oh. No.
I graduated there, and it's just good to be back home. When I had the opportunity to come back to North Carolina, it was just something I couldn't pass up. I love to travel. I love motivational speaking, and I love telling good stories. I'm really passionate about just getting out in the community and meeting people and just telling stories, especially for the voiceless and people who may not be able to share their stories.
Yeah, so important. And I mean, you've done some really great pieces for us recently, a lot that, I know this case is going to touch our heart, the story that we're going to see tonight, and just so many others that I can think of off the top of my head that you've done recently. So we're glad to have you on the team.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Could you leave us with a fun fact? What do you like to do on weekends, or your weekends, if you will?
I love skating. Skating, it's like therapy for me.
Rollerblading,
I
or
like a little bit of both, but I'm more roller skating, and I just I can throw it down and skate around.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I feel like there's kind of a resurgence. I don't want to say a resurgence, but I remember back in my day doing a lot of, I was a rollerblade child, but you'd go to the rink and you got the music, and it's like, Yes. But I feel like it's coming back, and I'm seeing more and more folks doing that. So I think that's super cool that you do that.
Yes, one of my closest friends, she lives in Memphis, and when I used to live in Memphis, and we would get there and just go skating, and it just, I can't tell you how therapeutic it is, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I love to eat too. I don't like to cook. I will cook, but I don't like to, but I'm a foodie.
Okay. Do you have a specific type of food that you like?
I love anything. Italian is probably my favorite.
Okay.
Definitely, I'm going to say Italian for sure.
You know, our producer Jeb here is a big pizza aficionado.
Oh,
and
wow.
he would tell you that, like, this is one of the first things I think I learned about Jeb.
Oh, yeah.
was that he loves pizza.
I eat a lot of pizza. So, well, all right, you've been in Charlotte for a while now. Do you have, and I know when you say Italian, you probably mean far more different than pizza. Like, I'm sure there's a wide range. But do you have a favorite pizza in Charlotte that you've had?
I'm still trying to learn the city.
Yeah, well, it's a big city. There's a lot to learn. I've been here for 3
know.
years, and I'm still trying to learn the city.
I can't say just yet.
All right. Well, we'll have to have you back on when you have your answer.
You'll have to let me know.
Right. This will be a recurring segment. We'll have you back for sure.
Awesome.
Have you had any Italian food that you like around here? You have a Portofino's. There's a lot of good options.
Not a lot just yet. I find myself sometimes going to Greensboro because my mother is a really good cook.
Hey, listen, that's the best chef in the game.
And so when I want Italian, I'm like, I want Italian, and she makes me Italian. So
that's fantastic.
I'm a little spoiled because she's only like an hour and a half from me.
No, that's perfect. That's why we moved back. That's fantastic.
I'm sure she's just so delighted to have you so close as well, too.
Yeah, she kind of was like, I kind of got threatened. She's like, you better come back home when the opportunity came available. She kind of threatened me and said, you've been gone for too long. It's good to be home, though.
Well, we're so glad that you're here, and thanks for taking a moment to stop by Live Impact News. We hope you come back again.
Thank you.
I know you're always working on something, so we want to hear about it.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
All right, and we'll remind folks that you can watch her piece tonight at 11 o'clock right here on WCNC+. And we do appreciate all of you who have been tuning in here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. It's been a really busy evening. Just to kind of recap some of the bigger points that we've mentioned, we wanted to kind of touch back here with St. Louis, since that was such a big portion of our evening coverage. And I mean, the images that we were seeing, absolutely stunning out of there, and some of the stories we're hearing absolutely heartbreaking. So we're still continuing to watch some of our feeds here out of the area. Our affiliate there, KSDK, providing some of the numbers for us, if you will, and also live looks at their radar. So that might be rotating through here in the final moments of our Live Impact News stream. But you can see power outages. One of the big storylines looks like they are seeing tens of thousands at this point. There you can see St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and some of the surrounding counties that are dealing with power outages. Really just stunning images, as we mentioned. Buildings collapsed. We saw, in fact, a building that collapsed on a man. That rescue happening here on Live Impact News. The interview with the family afterwards. Fortunately, it sounds like that man is going to be okay, but he was covered in quite a bit of rubble. But really, the reporter teams that have been spread out across the St. Louis area tonight, showing us quite widespread damage. I mean, it sounds like there hasn't been a neighborhood that isn't touched. It's in some way, whether it's down trees or damage to buildings, windows blown out, and sadly, as we mentioned, loss of life. Last check, at least 4 people have died because of 2 confirmed tornadoes and other storm impacts. So thanks for tuning in here on Live Impact News. We'll have updates for you coming up at 11.